Hello, everybody. Hello, how are we all? Welcome to our second live show for the Fits Along. Can you believe it? We are on book 2. We are 2 books through the first trilogy. I'm really sorry. I'm going to tell you guys in advance. I have a really dry throat today. I don't really know why. I think it's because I've been doing like renovations in my library. My patrons have been there with me through all of that. Yeah, so there have been a lot of renovations going on in here. And I think I've disturbed, like the centuries old dust behind bookcases and things like that. So, yeah, I do have a dry throat. There may be very well some coughing and spluttering at various points through this. Hello, guys. Hi. Oh, I'm so glad that you're excited for the discussion. I hope everybody's excited for the discussion and there's not some people here who are like, I hated this book. But we'll get to that, I guess. Hello. I am also looking forward to chatting about this one. During the reading of this, I took like 3 pages of notes. So I have a lot of questions for you guys after reading this one. Hello, guys. Hello. Listen to the audiobook a while back. Tell me, see what I can remember. That is always the same. That's an interesting question actually for us to kick off with while we wait for people to join before we start any of the hardcore discussions. Who out of you guys waited to read the book for the live show? So who out of you guys like held off and just finished the book really recently? And which ones of you went straight on and read it at the end of the other one because you just couldn't stop yourself? I struggled so much with that. I always struggle with that after the first book in this series. I just want to absolutely consume the second one. Like, Royal Assassin, not gonna lie, it's my favorite book in the entire series. And yeah, so there's always like a huge part of me that's just like, no, must read it now, must read it right now. But I waited and I only finished it today. I haven't even marked it as completed on Goodreads or anything yet. Hello. I'm excited to process some of the sadness. That's definitely a mood. Hi guys, just finished the book 10 minutes ago. I am not shocked. I think a lot of people were in that boat from the messages that I was getting. I definitely feel like I fell asleep for one chapter of the audio. Yeah, I think there's a lot of us who are like speed reading to get to the end. Hello, guys. I still need to read the last 100 pages. Well, luckily, that brings me to this little doodad in the corner here. So remember, this portion of the live show is going to be no spoilers. Now, I do think, guys, the further we go on into these live shows, I think it's going to be harder and harder to have any kind of discussion about the book without there being any spoilers. But for right now, it's no spoilers. So please keep anything that you say in the comments for this section of it just to very general thoughts, no specifics. I've got a bunch of questions for you guys. And then when this little banner goes away, it will be time for us to share our in-depth sadness and thoughts. I do have thoughts. Like that, I do have thoughts. Assassin's Quest in my TBR. I've not read this with you. I read it last year. Okay, that is very cool. I think there's quite a few people as well who were at various points in reading this series and who have come back for like these live shows to chat about it. So yeah, I put it off until 2 weeks ago. I won't be doing it for book 3. That's fair. Yeah, a lot of people haven't finished it yet. That's fine. I waited and finished it. Okay. Yeah, so people like finishing it really, really close to the live show. I'm not surprised about that. Did you guys need the reminder? Did you like need the reminder of me like scheduling? Then I couldn't stop myself from reading Quest. I don't know if I'll be able to stop myself this time around either. Yeah, I think I probably will as well. I will take meticulous notes as I go through so so that I can make sure that I can talk to you guys about it. But I think I'll probably be starting again. I started at the beginning of the month and got distracted. Yeah, that okay. Yeah, lots of people waiting until it was just like super fresh in their mind. Oh yeah, because Spotify only gives you so many hours. Yeah, I guess so. If you were listening, this would be quite a hard series to listen to on Spotify, wouldn't it? Because you would have to like, oh, you would have to like do it in set. Oh, I don't know that. I think that would make me ragey. I think that would make me so ragey. Don't know if I can wait. Yep, that's great. So I have a question as well, then, guys. After reading book two, again, mindful of spoilers, but after reading book two, how many of you, are there anybody here who actually doesn't want to go on to book three? Is there anybody who's like on the fence about the series, or is everybody like excited to go on Assassin's Quest? Is there anybody who kind of got to like the end of Royal Assassin and was like, it's not for me? Because it's been really interesting this time around. I've had a lot of DMs about this book, much more than I had for the first book. And it was I just realized like my book trolley's squint and that was upsetting me. um it made me realize that like a lot of people go into this series and they don't necessarily know what they're like letting themselves in for. They don't realize the amount of emotional damage that they have signed themselves up for. And so I got a lot of like quite upset DMs being like, does it get better? Does it get better, or is it just this? um Yes. Okay. I'm really glad. I'm really glad. That makes me really happy. I felt so hungover. Totally that. I don't know if I can cope with the rest of the books, but I will be reading it. I love that. Oh, this is nice to hear as well. Unsure after book one, but now most definitely hooked. Can't back off. Oh, this is really nice. I like that. However, I realized that I like starting the book the same month that the live show is. Yeah, that's fair. I think for Assassin's Quest, that one's maybe like for some people that'll be harder to do because Assassin's Quest is the first like mammoth book in the series. It is one of the longest ones. And so I think like for some people that'll be like quite hard to keep just for this month. They'll need like longer to read it. But I think like as seasoned fantasy readers, we'll probably eat it in enough time to finish it for the live show. If I didn't have two other books, I'd be moving straight on. Okay, this is interesting. I was feeling a little unsure about continuing halfway through because you were so angry. Okay, yeah, so angry and so sad. That's really interesting. So like I don't read sad books in general that are like for the sole purpose of making me feel sad. You know, like if there was nothing else in the book other than like the sad thoughts, or like if I felt manipulated into feeling sad, I definitely would stop. That's not how I feel about this series though. I feel like just like the pain is the payoff for the pleasure of it. Um are we in an S&M relationship with Robin Hobb? Are we? Um oh, it's a reread. Yeah, that's interesting. There's a lot of you who are rereading. Okay, so um like last time around, give me a let me think. If this is your first time reading this book, give me a wolf down in the comments for Night Eyes. If this is a reread for you, give me, let me think. Give me a mountain emoji down below. So if it's a new book for you, if this is the first time you've read Royal Assassin, give me a wolf emoji. And if you have read it before, if you are climbing the hill again, give me a mountain emoji down below in the comments. I'm just catching up on your comments. I binge read the whole trilogy. I love that. I had to force yourself not to pick it up. That's fair. I don't think I'm going to read ahead because, well, this is a lie because when it comes to Ship of Magic, I'm going to have to get a head start on that one because it's my least favorite of the whole series. And I know that I'll stall on it again. It took me so long. Oh, already read it. Yep. Tempted to reread it because it's your favorite. Yeah, that's totally fair. Oh, that's interesting. Almost DNF in the first half. That's very interesting. Okay, so tons and tons and tons and tons of you reading this for the first time. Oh, I'm so like that makes me so happy. That makes me so happy. Hi, Eleanor. Yes, guys. Yay for my returning people. Oh, that is so exciting. It's so exciting that so many of you are finding this. A flood of people have just joined, guys. So, like I was saying, if this is your first time reading it, put a wolf emoji down in the comments. If you've read this one before, give me a mountain emoji. Okay, yeah. So there's definitely some of us who are coming back. Definitely, definitely. This book makes me angry at the whole world. Yeah. Okay, so without any spoilers at all, give me a one word in the comments for how you felt at the end of this book. Just one word to describe how you feel at the end of this book. I want to know. I want to know. I think the way that I feel at the end of this book, let me think that I should make myself do it. Um Distraught. I think that's the way that I come out at the end of this book every time. Like, oh, like, you know, love that. Despair, heartbroken. Oh no, impatient. Yeah, oh, wrecked. That's a very good. That's like, oh yeah. Now that's interesting. A lot of people like, excuse me, what? Excuse me, what? Now what just happened? Oh, anxious. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lots of us in the same boat. Lots of us. Oh, wow. If this was a creative writing assignment, like, if you were ever like advertising anything and you like asked people just for one survey response answer, this wouldn't be the one you wanted, would it? Like, could you imagine us trying to like convince other people at this point in the series, like anxious, empty, frustrated, confused, like mixed, eager, like what the fuck? Like, can you not imagine us trying to like rope other people into the series just with our one word responses? Okay, I have a lot of questions that I want to ask you about. So, um let me think where we'll go first. Um all right. So again, for the non-spoiler portion of this program, I want to know, who is your favorite character now? And is that character the same as book one, or do you have a new favorite character? Like, I want to know if you have a new favorite character. So, my favorite character in this one, you guys know, I said it for book one. I said it in the live show for book one. I am a Verity fangirl, hands down, and this is definitely the Verity book. Okay, like for me, this is definitely the book that you get like the most of the Verity for your buck. So I would say that. But for me, the full, I it might be Verity's book, but for me, the full, just precious, precious baby angel. Uh, precious baby angel. Oh, I'm scared to read the last 100 pages because I'm already emotional. I'm so sorry, Danny. We're ruining you one page at a time. Yeah, 100% Verity. Oh, okay. So lots of votes for Ketrican. Not the same as last. Oh, it changed after book one. That's interesting. Full. Oh, we love Lacey. We definitely. Do you know what? We should do merch for this readathon and just have like Lacey fan club, because we are all. Yeah, yeah. Everybody loves a bit of Night Eyes, right? The first one was Burrage. The Fool. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. I like Fitz a lot more after this one. I agree. And oh, so last time around we were a little bit hazy about the timeline for Fitz and what age he is and stuff like that in a lot of the different books. So for you guys, I went and I did a deep dive on the interwebs, and although I can't tell you too far in advance because I don't want to give any spoilers as to who might be in any kind of condition and what book for the future. But I can confirm that he was indeed, we were all right, he was indeed 6 at the very beginning of the series. And at the end of this trilogy, he is 20, and right now he's right about this 16. So I feel like because we were getting the like very unreliable narrator of a very small child up to, you know, like a preteen and then early teenager, I'm gonna sneeze. I feel like that influenced how much I like Fitz, because in the first book I spent a long time being like, I appreciate that I'm in your perspective, you're a cinnamon roll, I don't want anything to happen to you, but at the same time I find you unbelievably frustrating. And even though in this book Fitz's decision making process, shall we say, maybe leaves a little bit to be desired, I also really enjoy him in this book. I feel like in this book he is much closer to a character that I'd like to spend umpteen books with, as opposed to like 1 or 2 books, you know. Oh yeah, so Ketchikan this time was very more Ketchikan. Lots of people are loving Ketchikan though. It's definitely some votes for Birch. Oh, okay, so we reversed our position on Birch, Sophie. That's interesting. Yeah, so what I'm getting from this is Ketchikan, the Fool, Night Eyes, Birch, Verity, and Ketchikan. Although we got a very little bit of Patience in this one, I did also love Patience. Verity can have my body. That's my heart. I love that so much. Yeah, I did hear myself, Danny. I did hear myself. Yeah, we should have merch. We should have like a Daddy Birch, a Lacey fan club. Yes. Okay. Right, let me catch up. Molly was strong too for you. That's interesting. Oh, and a Shroud. That is interesting as well. I didn't expect to see Shroud being anybody's favorite character out of this one, because he really has, I feel like Shroud's character has a big journey in this book in terms of like how you feel towards him by the end of it. Uh, yeah, who's your favorite? Yes. He's just a baby. Yeah, so apparently he is just 16 but for the majority of this book, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, he does. He does make a lot of 16-year-old choices. Oh, the shade. Definitely the shade button got pressed there. I agree though, because definitely there are some moments in this book. Again, I have to be very vague because we're still at the non-spoiler portion, but there are some bits in this book where I'm just like, baby boy, can you just take a wee step back and just take a deep breath and just engage some upper function somewhere up here, because I feel like when it is not for a mission, when Fitz isn't being asked to do something for Shroud or for Chade, he loses any kind of critical thinking skills. And I guess that's entirely because he has been trained to be a weapon, so effectively he's trained to put his own morals and his own thoughts and whatever to the side. But he spends a lot of time in this one just abandoning the ability to think with any kind of like objectivity about himself or his own life, and it's so frustrating. Yes, 16-year-old angsty decisions. I like how Fitz constantly excels at everything he does, but we never get the vibe he's the perfect hero. Yeah, this is it as well. Like, I think luck definitely plays a part for some of this, because he falls into a lot of solutions. Like he really doesn't go into every situation and ace it immediately. Like when he spoke to Ketchikan and he was like, "Girl, you're being an idiot," in front of her ladies in waiting, and then he was like, "Oh, I done just said that to the queen, the queen in waiting. Like that could have gone really, really badly, and it just so happened that it hit the right note with her. It so easily could have gone the other way, you know. Oh, I don't know how to feel about Patience. Okay, okay. A Patience library card. Oh, I love that so much. Oh no, we're totally going to be talking about Daddy Birch later on. I promise. Um, Right. Yes, Fitz is so impulsive. Yes, very that. Um, he even acknowledges mid-conversation, I should have said X, but I said Y. Yeah, I do feel like that's also very teenage brainy, isn't it? Where you're like, what is it that they say that like the first thing that comes to mind is not your honest feeling. This once you engage your brain, like the second thing that you think is what you actually think. The first thing that you say or um think is what you've been trained to. And I think you can definitely see that with Fitz. Baby boys never heard of critical thinking. Yes. I'd be aggravated they didn't send Regal a bait to be a diplomat in some raggedy cold country. There's a lot of Regal in this book. There is a lot of Regal in this book. I think he has good instincts. Yep, he messes up, but he can trust his gut. I think it's interesting because so much of who he is as a person and so much of how he feels about things has been suppressed. He's been told to sit on it. He's been taught by the people around him to sit on it. And so when he actually has to like reach for it and go, wait, how do I actually feel about this? He has no idea how to process that or drag it out. I don't know if we talked about this in the live stream, but patient. Oh, that's really interesting. Patience gives you strong ADHD vibes. I agree with that. Does anybody else agree with that? And also, I think it's worth remembering, certainly for the second half of this discussion, where we are going to be talking spoilers and stuff like that. I think it's worth remembering that these books were written in like I think this one was written in like 1996, and so we are like quite far away from the time that this was written in and relatively, and so there's a lot of things that I think had Robin Hood been writing them now, had she had the freedom to write them the way that she wanted now, had publishing given her the chance to write them like that, I think we would see a lot of things being different in this, a lot more overt people being coded as like on the spectrum somewhere, a lot more like like a lack of gender binaries for characters, you know, that kind of thing. But rather than just being hinted at or like dangled for you, I think they would be a lot more overt, and I think that obviously was very difficult to be sold for 90s fantasy. Aggravated by how much Shrew and Verity were in denial or did nothing about Regal. Okay, so again, no spoilers, but did the Regal plot for you guys, did it go where you expected it to go, or were you shooketh by the end of it? By the seat of his pants so very much. Have we? No, we haven't. We haven't talked about who we dislike, Alyssa. Shall we talk about that now? Because I'm sure that fits nicely in with the Regal thing. So, who do we dislike? Who is in this book in a very spoilery, mindful way? Who is our most hated character at this point? Ironically for me, I actually don't think it's Regal. There are some coterie members at this point who I am more upset with necessarily than Regal, because I think there were choices that were made that didn't have to be that way. Yes, this is very true. Yeah, with Hod, you do get to see that he regularly fails, and I think that like I think that even reflected in Regal, you can see that Robin Hobb writes these infinitely complex characters who are never just one thing, and like she does a villain she does a villain so beautifully. There is somebody who I am so excited, like so excited for you guys to meet and hate in Ship of Magic. I am so excited for you guys to hit the villains in the live ship books, because I'm relishing the potential for the complex discussions that we're gonna have there, because I can feel the frothing. I can feel the rage already. It's probably why I like her. Yeah, definitely hyperfixated on, especially that first scene in the first book with Fitz, where she was just like, here and this, and look at this, and also I like this, and there's things all over the floor, and yeah, definitely. Regal's the most obvious villain. His dad and brother are just happy to have him around instead sending him to a crumbling tower on the arse end of nowhere. It is very 90s fantasy, but I think you can also feel the, because I've read a lot of like classic fantasy, classic like 80s fantasy, early 90s fantasy and stuff, but I feel like in all of these situations Robin Hobb was like ahead of her time. I feel like you can tell, certainly with the inclusion of the Fool and some relationships that you get later on, that she had ideas far past what publishers would probably have allowed her to put in her books at the time. And I think she hints at them in such a beautiful way that it's she leaves things open enough, I think, for readers that you can interpret some interactions in any way that you want to. I have words for Rico and none of them are the same. Hemisphere is nice. Oh no. Yes, like if you could get an author's preferred text for like especially the first trilogy, I wonder if she would change things. That is, yes, that is very interesting. Rigo. Okay, yeah. We definitely come back to this. Rigo, yes. Yes. Yes, Eleanor, that's how I feel. Still loathe Galen. Yep. I'm surprised by how much they let Regal get away with. It's interesting because I think you have to ask yourself why Shrewd did keep him around. And how much, because if you think about Shrewd's sons, they're all so markedly different from each other and they all need such different things. And outside of a fantasy series, like in the real world and stuff, if we have children and they are all so completely different, there is that need to parent them all individually and give them all what they need and what they want, as opposed to like what you think that they should have, and as opposed to what might be easy for you as a parent to raise them. But I feel like in the fantasy setting, when you then have like a kingdom and really effectively your people are supposed to be your children as much as your actual physical children are your children, you're supposed to parent your kingdom as well. And I feel like Shrewd most definitely missed a few tricks because he has the ability to have assassins at hand, and obviously Regal doesn't know that Chade exists, which is interesting. Lots of votes for Regal. Oh, that's interesting. Was still on the Burrich hate bandwagon for Ocean. I was expecting that. Oh yes, yep. Well, especially the coterie, yes, most definitely. Oh, this is interesting. Still suspicious of the Fool. Is anybody else suspicious of the Fool? I knew where they were going through with the Regal item. I'm really struggling with Fitz and Shade. Interesting. Sarah, what is it that you're struggling with specifically? Because that's quite difficult, obviously, because effectively for the Fitz books, you are in Fitz's head for them. For the Fitz trilogies, you are in Fitz's head. Whereas, of course, for like live ship and for the Dragonhaven books and stuff, you have other perspectives, but that's going to be complicated, I think, for you if you stick out the series, if Fitz is somebody that you don't like being in his head. No, because I can't distinguish between 2 and 3 at this point. Should we go? Oh, okay. This is a good question, and I will come back to this at some point. later on when we get to the spoiler portion. There's a lot for future books. I'm a not say. Wallace made me so angry. Yes. Oh, there are so I keep thinking about him as Wallace. Anybody else like can't actually think of him with his own name after that absolute slay of a drag. That was so good. Don't get the Molly hatred. I was so impressed that she finally cut off Fix. Yet Molly is definitely a big piece that we need to talk about soon. I really want to talk about her more when we get into the spoiler portion because I have serious thoughts. After reading this, Cushiel's Legs, I was just so mad that Game of Thrones is the one from this era that got a show. I mean, I feel like there's always potential for some of these to be picked up, but I'm not gonna lie, I struggle with the idea of this one being adapted because even with the best adaptation in the world, because you can't deny Game of Thrones casting, its budget, the skill of the showmakers. It was beautifully done. Some things still got done dirty. And some things didn't get handled the way that I liked. And I would be I would struggle so much if this show ended up getting cast with like actors I didn't like, or like that kind of thing. Like, oh, Stinky Chamber Pots Lady Time. Still don't like Lady Time. um I'm interested by who knows what secrets and how that is decided, especially with Shrewd being less evil. Yeah, definitely, because that's a scary thing as well, right? With like Shrewd's health being in decline and Shrewd being the one who holds the reins of almost everything. I feel like that one's a scary one because Chade is sworn to the crown. He's right now, he's a king's man. He's sworn to the king, but he's sworn to whoever is king. So the next person that comes along, both Fitz and Chade are in their employ, whether they like it or not. Yeah, so I feel like Rico was badly served by his power hungry mother. Yeah, he's a third son. Exactly. There was I do feel that as well. I do feel like his mum kind of saw Regal as gullible, because I do feel that about Regal, although there is like, he's clearly like a hateful little shithead occasionally all the time. But like I feel like because Robin Hobb never writes 2D characters, because everybody is complex, I feel like Regal potentially right from the beginning was pegged out as being somebody who was desperate to please, somebody who was desperate to be loved, was very impressionable, was probably also very vain and very selfish in that way that very young children can be, and you have to train them out of it and you have to reteach them how to have empathy to people. And I feel like nobody actually did ever teach him empathy, and instead took advantage of that and very much steered him the other way. And it's not to say that he shouldn't also have been making choices and thinking about things in a complex way himself, but I feel like there's a chance that Regal literally did just get done so dirty. Oh, we were talking about the possibility of there being a show like Game of Thrones got a show. It was the one from this era that got a show. um I would struggle with the idea. Yes, the right writers could, but also like, what do you do? Do you give a season for the first trilogy? Like, I feel like that's almost impossible to do, right? Like Game of Thrones is like 1/800 book. Like one season is 800 page book. What do you do with this world? How would you do that? Hob would have to be, yeah, definitely. And I don't know, like I love her to pieces, but I feel like she's quite antisocial to the idea of like Hollywood types and things like that. Like she lives in a farm in the middle of nowhere and doesn't like social media. So like I feel strongly that she would struggle with that. I feel like Rico was the only one Parented, yes, that's definitely a theme that I want to get to as well. Okay, so we're about half an hour in. I think we're going to now switch over because I think we're getting to the point where um we're getting to the point where we can't really complexly discuss anything without giving spoilers. So I am going to warn everybody now, if you have not finished the book and you're just hanging around like having the fun bits at the start, now's the time to leave. We're gonna go to the spoiler portion, and I have very like specific specific questions for you that you can't, there's definitely going to be details in here that you're going to struggle with. So with that in mind, let's go for the spoilers. We're only doing spoilers for as far as we are in the series. So the first two books, no further in the series. I think it would be I think it wouldn't be fair to people because obviously, like, some of us have read quite far on, but lots of us haven't. So we're only doing spoilers up to the end of Royal Assassin. So please be mindful if you have read on from that. See you soon, guys. I hope you enjoy tuning back in. Okay, so let's talk about Molly. Let's just go in with Molly because Molly has already been brought up. How does everybody feel about Molly? Because for me, I really struggle with Molly as a character. And it's not because I think that. So here's my thoughts. Molly is like a very complex character. She has obviously had, like we said this in the first book, she's had a horrific start. She's clearly incredibly smart, and she's managed to, stay alive and stay a person on her own wits. And also, I feel horrifically bad for Molly because I feel like she was very clear in this book, and she was right. Fitz lied to her. Fitz wasn't free to promise her anything or imply the promise of anything, which I think is what he struggles with, because he's like, but wait, I didn't promise you anything. He's like, but I didn't. I wanted it, but I never said anything because I wasn't, I didn't know how to. And she's like, no, but bitch, you did. And he did. Like, let's be honest. He definitely like gave her a certain impression of how their relationship would be, and that's totally unfair in the situation that he's in, because, as is pointed out later to him, he's not free to give promises of any kind to anybody. So for all of those reasons, I think Molly has not had the best start, and I think she definitely makes the best with what she has got. She definitely tries at all times to be on the right side of things. However, when I say that Robin Hobb primarily writes 3D characters, and every other character, including Lacey, who is in so few scenes, like if you count up Molly's scenes compared to Lacey's scenes, I feel like Molly has so much fewer. Lacey has so much fewer scenes than Molly, but Lacey is still a more complex character than Molly is somehow. Somehow I never get past the cardboard cutout of Molly. I feel like I don't know like who she actually is beyond being this very abused, very downtrodden character. I really, really struggle to emotionally connect with her in any way, even though I know all of the things that she has gone through. Yeah, loved Fitz and Molly's relationship, but and I understand her choices. I completely validate all of her choices as well. I agree with this as well. She definitely has her head on straight. Like, she's definitely a survivor, I totally think that all of the things that she does and the decisions that she makes are absolutely for the best, but I still don't like her. It's not even an act of hate. I don't like her. I don't dislike Molly. I dislike how much time Fitz dedicates to thinking about Molly. Oh my god, that is so. That needs to go on a t-shirt. Like, the amount of pontificating that Fitz does just thinking about the question of Molly. I absolutely loved Verity being like, dude, my man, we need to have a conversation because this is like you're keeping me awake. Are you okay? Are you okay? Do you need something? Like yeah, I don't think she that's the other thing. I feel like Molly is quite a lot of the time. Molly is quite, and I guess it's because of her circumstances as well. And also, I am not this is a thing that I'm very mindful about as well. I'm very mindful about the fact that I'm talking about, you know, like a female character who's only a little bit older than Fitz. She is under no obligation to be likable. She is under no obligation to present herself as likable. That being said, I feel like she goes too far in the other direction a lot of the time. She's very harsh. Um she's very blunt. She spends a lot of I struggle to find the thing that Fitz is really in love with. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's very sharply contrasted against this image of Verity having to learn to love Ketrican. Like she's not at all what Verity would have picked for himself, but now we have to see him learning to love her because that's the situation that he finds himself in. So I think we have like that in the background is such a sharp contrast to this like obsession with Molly. And I'm like, but for why though? For why? She stood her ground. Yep. And when he couldn't give it to her, she left. Yep. I think she loved Fitz and wanted to trust him. I can't get over how hot and cold she is. Yeah, that's my issue as well. Hate her and Fitz together. They bring out the worst in each other. Sophie, that's also a good way to describe it for me. This is why I struggle with Fitz. The scenes of them being intimate, but there are other things involved, gave me such problems with him because it wasn't fair to her. Yeah, and to a certain degree, it does kind of feel like an abuse of power. Do you know what I mean? It does feel like there's no way for Fitz to have a fair relationship with her. I do. I 100% absolutely do. And I also appreciate the fact that we're being given this narrative from an adult Fitz looking back at himself as a younger boy. So I also kind of appreciate the thought or the fact that we are like looking at Molly through dual lenses. But I also don't feel like the adult Fitz knowing some of the things that happen in the future, which I know is like, again, no spoilers or anything for future books, but like, I also don't feel like the adult Fitz does a very good job of being like, oh, so this is the problem with me here right now. Because I'm sorry, I can look back at like the teenage Leanne and be like, girl. And I can absolutely be like, oh, you did that because of this, you did that because of this. But I would have a complex sort of discussion about that. And I feel like he never gets to that. She bores me. Yeah, that's a lot of readers feel this about Molly, that she's just quite boring. As a thriller reader, I see you, Molly. Because of the skill, I want Fitz to be with Ketrican. Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting ship. I had never actually thought about Fitz and Ketrican. I get much more of like a brother sister vibe from Ketrican. I loved how Patience laid it all out for him. Yes, Rosalind was very like taking no nonsense with that. Like, no, do you want this woman to be perceived as being like your concubine? Is that what you want? I love the like denseness that he was just kind of like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean? I think there's a point after which the thing with Molly was never going to happen because society and the whole storyline should have been dropped much earlier than it was. Yeah, yeah. I feel like it could also have been like a thing that frittered out where we could be looking at, you know, like book 3 and Fitz looking back and being like, oh, look at that naive boy who was in love with that naive girl. And I'm just like, oh, I think the love serves the purpose of showing the life Fitz is giving up. Yes. So it's again that I do feel like that is another one of my reasons. Yes, she runs a little flat. That's another one of my reasons why I don't like it, because I feel like she's a storytelling device much more than she is like a full rounded character. Love how Molly's like, I can't be with you. And they just hop between the sheets. Yes. felt like Molly being a bit 2D is because of how Fitz viewed her. Yeah, that's interesting because any sort of complex thoughts that you get about Molly do kind of get served to Fitz through other characters, through like Lacey and Patience and even Birch, really. Yep. Lacey left more of an impression. She did lack that. Also, whose choice was it for her to become the maid, knowing Fitz was there? Also, they love each other. Suspicious. Don't be suspicious and don't be suspicious. I like that a lot. I don't like what Hobb does with her character. She's written as a very stereotypical medieval woman. Yeah, that's fair as well. She kind of she does kind of embody like what realistically would have exactly existed at that time. And I suppose to a certain degree, you then can't fault Robin Hobb for that a little bit because, like, to the setting minus the fantasy, I guess she is kind of like historically accurate, but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know. Molly feels different from the rest of the characters because she's the only one who lives in the real world. That's actually a very smart thought as well, Bex. Like, that's a very good way to think about it. It's like she's the only one who actually is sort of like a common person who's feeling the brunt of all of these big decisions and like chess pieces being moved about behind her. Yeah, definitely. I don't really feel anything for Molly. That's okay, so that's a very valid interpretation as well. Like, I just nothing. Molly, she just is what she is. I felt Verity so much in these Molly conversations. It gives me teenage relationship meh. Yes. Yeah, Fitz is more in love with the idea of her, definitely. Yeah, Molly made assumptions as well. That's the other thing. I do think like Fitz gets a bit of like a hard truck with this one because bearing in mind that he is a teenager and he's never really been taught how to love or how to relate to other people. It is interesting to me that Molly also, like, because of the situation Molly gets put in, nobody really does criticize the fact that she also made assumptions. Fitz loved her because she was a constant. Oh, that makes me sad. I don't like Molly either, and I think that her and Fitz should have been friends because I don't see them as a romance until it just kind of happens. Yeah, it just kind of gets like thrown to you. He was dreaming of a regular life with her. She had no way of imagining his life because he didn't tell her anything. That's also very true. Like, there's so much where he's like, I can't give you like any pieces of me. That makes me wonder as well, like, if Fitz fell in love with the idea of Molly, did Molly also just fall in love with the idea of Fitz? And is she maybe like, because she's a woman in this society, they've both made the same poor choices, but it's just that the choices reflect so much worse on her because of the way society views women out of this situation. That's interesting. Yeah, so you felt like there was a brother sister vibe. Didn't feel like there was any emotional impact because I didn't care about them as a couple. Yeah, that's true. I read some potentially slightly more than admiration vibes. That's interesting. Did anybody else feel like this? I thought that was because of Verity and the skill bond, Beth. Yes, that's very interesting as well. Because you do see, so that's another like interesting point that I want to like touch on as well. We saw a lot more of the skill and its actual implications being used here. Because apart from like what was happening to Shrewd with the coterie, I like the glimpses that we get between Verity and Fitz, where Fitz is constantly like, he's just throwing himself out into the void so loud that everybody can hear him. Everybody can hear what he's projecting. And I felt like that was a very interesting way to kind of look at a teenage thing, because that's what teenagers do. They kind of are just like screaming into the void. And I felt like that was a really cool way to demonstrate this skill. Like, you are so loud and your needs are so loud that you're physically keeping me awake at night. And it's also interesting that they've constantly just put Fitz on the back burner with this, like, oh, we'll teach him at some point, we'll teach him at some point. If we get a chance, we'll do something about it. And then it comes back in like a very big way to bite them right in the butt, like a very, very big way. And I love the constant hint that Fitz is more powerful than he thinks he is, than anybody realizes that he is. And the issue with that is that this like skill is just like echoing around other people's skull. I think that's really, really interesting. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if Molly's view of Fitz's new boy gave her a sense of power and bringing something more to a relationship, which was then turned over when she did. That's very interesting, Sophie. That's a really cool way to think about that as well. Like it gave her a sense of agency in her own life and like something she could teach new boy. Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, I do that. I want more answers about the wit and why it is viewed as bad. Yes, there's a lot of like hints in this about future things with the wit. Do you know what I mean? Like there's that whole part with Burrich where you're kind of like, you definitely know more than you are telling us. Like you've definitely had experiences that you are not like explaining to Fitz because you're just unwilling to unpack it because of whatever trauma. The hubris of adolescence. Yes. Verity was emitting feelings through Fitz towards Keshka, and I was like, how is this okay? But not the wit. Very that, Marina, right? Very, very that. And also, I think that that was a very it's a very interesting way to introduce us to any kind of sex scenes or intimate scenes in this book. I thought that was like a very like, okay, well, Robin Hobb she just done gone there. She just done gone there. I feel like Fitz obviously doesn't get good boundaries. Yes, because he's used as a tool. It must impact how he views others. Very much that. We will be reading this one actually as part of the read along, and we're going to read it. Hold on, let me tell you. Let me just open the schedule. So we're going to be reading those in December. So maybe if you don't want any spoilers or any other hints, I would wait to read that one into December. So we're going to read The Assassin's Apprentice, like the Farseer trilogy. Then we're going to read The Live Ship Traders, and then it's an optional in December for The Inheritance and The Wilful Princess and The Piebald Prince, because you don't need to read them for the series, so they are optional. But I will be reading them, and we will discuss them in the live show. So probably because the people in power can't do it, so it's therefore not socially acceptable. This is interesting. How do we feel about the fact that the skill is this like bitterly kept, like jealously guarded thing, but it's very clear that there are probably other people out there who have the aptitude to skill and could actually be useful at this point? Like, how do we feel about that? I only say it's bad when it could be extremely helpful. Yes. The only information we have about the wit comes from Burrich. Yep. And he has a prejudiced view about it for some currently like unknown reason. Sparkly emojis. Yes. Especially because wetting dogs and imprinting orders on humans seems rather the same thing. I agree with this. I also think like you definitely see in this book the scary part starting with the wit. You see the idea of the wit becoming both a good and a bad thing, because Fitz is never entirely alone now that Night Eyes is on the scene. Fitz is never like, he's never alone in his own brain anymore. And while I feel like on the one hand, that's like, it's that whole thing where we're all ultimately alone at every point, you know, because we only live in our own head. There's nobody in our own head with us. And then suddenly there is somebody there with you constantly. I could understand why you would just want to retreat into that and retreat into the safety of having this certainty of pack. and always have that in your head. So I wonder if the wit was about the prejudice against the mountain people because Ketrican can use it. You definitely can, Beth. There is actually a reading order out there which gives you the exact places. I'll look for it for you. It gives you the exact places to read each of the stories because there's some short stories in the Inheritance and then where it reads the Willful Princess and the Piebald Prince. I put it at the end of the first two trilogies because I feel like you've then got enough information to fully appreciate everything that's in them. But I feel like you could read them after the first full trilogy if you wanted to. I feel like it's part tradition how the skill has rules of how it was taught and passed down in a formal way. Yes. My neurodivergent brain was constantly asking, are the skill and the wit different? I don't want I want us to be careful that we don't talk too much about future books though, guys, because I know that there are like with this one, I know that we're like, well, does it get explained and do we know things? But there are going to be people in the comments who don't want to know. Yes, there you go. After the live ship, but before the Tawny Man. Yes, that's exactly where I've placed them. So, like, just be a bit mindful in the comments, guys. I don't want anybody to get spoiled by accident. I think Fitz is a huge creation of his environment. Yes, absolutely, absolutely that. I think Regal wants the wit for bad because he just wants to go and hide in the mountains and what everyone else does his dirty work. Yes, it makes no sense how traditions lose their meaning, but we still hold their value. That's very, very pertinent for this series in a lot of ways. Like you've kind of like hit on a future theme as well there, Eleanor, without meaning to. And royals can use skills so it's aspirational and presented as elite and special. Yes. Regal's terrible at being in charge. Yes, although that's actually interesting. That's an interesting idea there. Regal is terrible at being in charge, but also is he? Because a lot of times Regal does this like absolutely annoying thing where he just like bursts in and he's like, why didn't I get an invite? Why don't you like me? Why am I not getting told this? I want you to brief me. He does all of these like big showy things, but very quietly in the background he has a spy. You know, he has a spy. He has somebody who's actually like right there in Ketrican's chamber listening to everything. So as much as like there are a lot of scenes where I'm like, oh my god, would you just shut up? Would you please shut up? There are other times where I'm like, damn, like spite will get you real far. That's what I think about Regal. I think like spite will get you like so far before it catches up with you, you know. Love Night Eyes, yes. Find the scene where Fitz's body is with Molly while being controlled. Yes. So I'm not gonna lie, this is something that I wanted to ask you guys about as well. How did you feel? How did you feel about the more intimate scenes in this book? Because clearly Robin Hobb is never going to be an author who delivers like any kind of smut or anything like explicit. But like how do you guys feel specifically about this scene? Because I have a lot of thoughts. Like I have a lot, a lot of thoughts. Didn't get enough of Night Eyes. Better not pull a Jon Snow with his wolf. Love it. Oh, that is a big comparison, though. That's a big, genuine comparison right there. It does feel very like Jon Snow and ghost coded at this point. I know you're an impatient little brat, but you're my impatient little brat, so it's fine. I will rein you in, Beth. And grab the next trilogy before I have to read them because my library's slow. Yeah, that's definitely an issue. I mean, certainly some streaming services have like the audiobooks, and other ones have the Kindle books and stuff like that. So there might be other places to get them. It is really crap if you're relying on your library for them, though. I'm like very lucky to have a full set. For me, the skill was more intrusive than the wit. Yes, the animals don't understand or use your thoughts the way people's do. I like this distinguishing thing a lot, Marina, because I feel like there nothing that Night Eyes does can be considered manipulative. Nothing that Night Eyes does feels like it feels at all like it's self-serving or it's forcing anybody to do anything. And I love that. Like I absolutely love the difference there. After this we need to do a reread along so we can talk about all the breadcrumbs. Has anybody else started writing down the fool's prophecies? So this is the next thing that I wanted. That this is another one of my questions for you guys. We're starting to get actual prophecies now. We're actually getting like proper full sentences, full paragraphs of stuff from the Fool where he's like, this is like this and this. There's words that are being repeated over and over again, like that fits as a catalyst, that he's a linchpin. So has anybody got any thoughts about the Fool's prophecies, or does anybody not like them? Because this is a slightly controversial opinion, because I know that prophecies and destinies and chosen children are so much of 90s fantasy, and I mean 80s and 90s fantasy, and don't get me wrong, I love me a good chosen one. Like all of my favorite fantasy series really end up having a chosen one in them. However, I'm not a big prophecy fan. It just makes me want to roll my eyes. I don't like the idea of fate and a lack of agency. I don't like the idea that no matter what you do, it's not going to change the future. And that's actually one of the reasons why I love this series so much, because clearly the Fool there's a scene with Fool and Shrewd where Fitz is viewing, is it the end of last one or is it the very start of this book? I can't remember, but he's viewing what is happening with the Fool through Shrewd. And the Fool, I think it's when he's actually like looking for Molly. He's like, oh my god, like he saw everything happening in the bay through Shrewd. But either way, where the Fool is very clear when he says it's hard to know if these things have come to pass, if they were just possibilities, like just passing possibilities, or if they are things that will come to pass in the future. And sorry, I've got such a dry throat, guys. I knew I was going to end up with a coughing fit at some point or another. But it's interesting to me because the way that prophecy is framed in this one is very much like, here are a set of things. Here are a set of doors that you could walk through. Your actions are going to determine which one of these doors becomes the future. I can't remember why Fitz all of a sudden can skill. I mean, I think he could always skill to a certain degree, and I think it's that he doesn't realize that he's skilling more than anything, Amanda. Like because like bottle drips. I think that I think it was kind of made clear at the end of the first book that there was plenty in Fitz that Galen could tease out, and he chose not to. And so Fitz at the end of the first book, remember, he had that whole time of like bouncing around heads and trying to throw himself out of himself and call for Verity. And so I think he could always skill, and he always had the potential to skill. It was just that he was never taught how to use it. So there's all this like frothing about in the background. Thinks that Fitz knows more than he's letting on. Yep, I've been interested in the Fool's Prophecy. Definitely. And there are already repeated phrases between book 1 and book 2 from the Fool. I really feel like the Fool believes in it, but Fitz has no clue what's going on. Yep. Confused by them, Melissa, or like them? Confused and like them, or just confused and annoyed? My personal theory, I don't know if it's correct, but I fully believe Phil is an elderling or elderling adjacent. Yeah, so that is interesting because we obviously know There's a couple of little hints, I think, in the first one about the Elderlings, and then I think it's mentioned maybe once or something in this one. But obviously, we know that that's the overarching like name of the series. So it's like, what is an elderling? Like, where did he come from? Phil's the best character. Yeah, I was thinking my hands not to say too much. It's really hard, Eleanor. Like I spend the first live show and this one, I've spent so many times like hearing a thought and going, oh no, you can't say that. Like you can't say that. They don't know that yet. The prophecies themselves are more interesting to me because the characters feels interesting in their own right and not just like a 2D mouthpiece. That's the other thing. What do you think of the Fool's gender expression in this one? What do you think? Because something that occurs to me about this book is that the first book was very male dominated. Almost every one of the big serious influences that we get in Fitz's life in Assassin's Apprentice, it's all men, and a lot of them are very masculine men. Burrich, Verity, even the even like the he's raised around guardsmen, do you know what I mean? He's raised around like stable boys, he's raised around like men who use their hands, blacksmiths, things like that. A lot of the big influences in his life were male, and all of a sudden this is a very female dominated book. This feels like a very feminine book in a lot of different ways. And I actually feel like the reading it through this time made me think about this in a more complex way. But I really feel like chivalry and the character of chivalry, because we haven't seen him on the page, so we don't know how he acted. But I feel like because everybody is constantly saying chivalry was charming, he was very good with people, he was very good at listening to people and at like knowing what they needed and understanding their emotions and stuff. I feel like chivalry wasn't necessarily the most masculine man either, because he's very much described as empathetic, good with people. And so I wonder whether the Patience and Lacey of it all, and Molly, and then Fool and his like true like defying any kind of gender or particular expression. I think it's really interesting to see how Fitz is changing with feminine energy in his life. Catch up with your feelings. The Fool had feelings for Shrewd, and I wish we knew why. Yes. I like it in all of these books purely because of how the Fool is delivering everything and how unclear everything is. I like that everything the Fool says could be prophetic or just a nonsense distraction that you have to tweezer out. I like that as well. I wonder if, to a certain degree, that's how the Fool copes with the fact, because could you imagine having these prophecies just rolling about in your head and then watching all these absolute and complete numpties consistently choosing stupid things and being like, I done just told you with clear everyday words what would happen. Like, I gave you options. I gave you option A, B, and C, and you chose door F, and you're an idiot. Like, feelings more than father, son, or king servant. Yep, because I got they really just cared about him because he's so close to him in his position. I feel like there was another component there. I wonder whether because Fitz has mentioned that because Phil has mentioned that Fitz is a catalyst, I wonder whether Shrewd is important to the Fool for other things. I wonder whether the soul of Shrewd is important to the Fool, not just the idea of him, which is what is important to everybody else. I feel like the Fool and his power to see and understand, but not to affect change. That imbalance leads to good dramatic tension. Yeah, definitely. As opposed to like I'm thinking about things here like David Eddings, who I love like dramatically and drastically. It was my gateway into fantasy, but there's very much a prophecy running through those books. It's like, no, it's written in stone. And then there's a couple of people who like suddenly do these things that they couldn't do before, and it changes the prophecy. And I'm like, sure, Jan, like, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, we don't ever see Shroud and the Fool alone together, so it's hard to gauge, but I guess Shroud's been good to him at least. Yeah. I think the Shroud saved the Fool somehow, which led to a very deep loyalty. Yep. I constantly wonder what it would have been like if Verity didn't leave. Remind you of a character that's non-binary? Yes, there's a lot of women, but they're very separate from the men. Yeah, a lot of the time they do sort of lead these like parallel lives, right? I mean, it's which is very accurate for the time. Like they had very separate duties and things like that, and obviously, like a female court, like in a royal setting, would be very separate as well. I think Phil's expression was to confuse people and not take him seriously in case he does say something serious. No one will listen to them until they're told to. Don't see them as either gender. Yep. I think his role as the Phil is to be more casual. Yes, he's allowed to show more of his softness. I don't understand what prophecies we're talking about. This is my fantasy series, so I've had to go to fandom wiki for a lot of it to keep track. Okay, so like I think the prophecies are definitely meant to be vague, Alyssa. Like I think they're very, especially coming from the Fool, they're very much meant to be things that you don't understand right now. Although I have noticed a few things in this read through that I'm like, oh, that was that. I've noticed a few things where I was like, that I didn't notice on any of my other read throughs because I think I'm reading so much closer because we're going to be doing live show discussions. So I don't feel too bad that you've not kept track of the Fool's prophecies, but also be careful in fandom wikis because some people are not very careful with spoilers. Yeah, he's being good and being overlooked and treated like a fool. Oh, I'm so there for this. Right. Let's just get down to the brass tacks. Who are we shipping at this point? What relationship in here? If plot didn't matter, what relationship in here are we shipping? Because this for me, this throuple, they could have been everything, man. Like, I feel like Chivalry could have made Birch laugh and be like less serious. I feel like Birch could have reined Chivalry in on some of his more like, yes, this is a good idea, let's go and do this thing. I feel like Patience would have reminded both of them that there are so many more interesting things out there than just duty and that you have to do all of the other things. Like this trio is just such a loss to me. It's such a loss to me. Like it's so upsetting. This is why we can't have nice things. Yes. Yes. It annoyed me that Fitz was always ignoring the Fool when he was aware that this was also interesting to me in that like I noticed more in this read through that like Fitz had it was like he kept seeing the Fool and he's listening to the Fool and one half of his brain's like, oh cool, the Fool, like yeah, fine, whatever. Oh look, is that a bruise? Huh, I wonder how he got that. And he just goes away and he goes back into his own little world and I'm like, how do you think he got the bruise? How do we think he got the bruise, Fitz? Come back. Fitz is dumb. He is. I love him, but he definitely is. I wonder if the Fool isn't supposed to be seen as a gender, but just an entity that's loyal to the king. Yes. I could if I had my tabbed copy next to me, but I don't. So for next time, I will get you the prophecies for our next live show because the prophecies definitely go past book through. I will definitely do that. Oh, that's interesting. It feels like the Doctor from Doctor Who and could be anything, knows most of the time, but not allowed to do much about it. That's a really cool way of doing that. Yes. Oh, I'm honestly doing this really is giving me so much life because I am making connections that I've never made before. Fandom wiki is very dangerous. Oh yes, be very careful. Be very, very careful if you Google anything, man. Because especially Reddit. Stay away from Reddit. Stay far away from Reddit. Yes. Yes. Oh, definitely want to see Chivalry and Birch together. Birch and Patience, that hurt me so bad. Yes, it literally broke me. It broke me. The interesting thing is, if Birch could just get over himself a little bit, uh, this could happen. Do you know what I mean? This could have been happening now. Like in this book, they could have been this could have been happening in this book. But Birch has got he's so tremendously like loyal and careful about duty and serious about the ways that he like upholds the things that he thinks are correct, that he's stepping in his own way, man. He's getting in his I love this a lot. Yes, for that throuple. Yes, a natural conclusion for love triangles. Thank you. Yes. I think this is a very like I agree with this as well. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with any of this. Agree with them as a throuple. No other ships in the throuple. That's interesting. I need to see Birch happy. It would change so much. Oh, Grumpy Birch. Grumpy Birch, though. What? Do you know what? Birch gives me the very much the sorry to Taylor Swift it for those who are here and who are not fans, but the I can fix him. No, really, I can vibe. You know, like no, but I can, but I can, and maybe it's only me that can fix him. You know, like Chivalry, Patience, Birch, and Lacey. Oh, and a little like Chivalry and Patience and Birch, or Birch and like all combinations here I'm good with. I love Lacey. I like to read Lacey as sapphic coded. I like to read Lacey as when Lacey's finished, when Patience falls asleep at the end of the day, when she's absolutely knackered from all of her running around, knowing all the things and doing all the things. I like to think that Lacey goes down and has a good gossip with the other serving women and has like a good hearty meal in the kitchen and has some like the poor wine, like the poor wine and ale for the poor people, and has some fun with some other ladies' maids. Like that, I like to read Lacey as sapphic. They all just love each other, just not together. Stop hurting us. I like Verity and Keshkin as well. Yeah, I think Verity spends a long time in this one thinking like this is how things should be, but this is how I wanted things to be. And like the living in the past of it is stopping him from having all of like the in the present, like, but dude, this could be good for you. Like you could get all of the things out of this that you need, and he keeps holding himself back, and I'm just like, oh, so much this. Like, give me half an hour in a quiet room with the person who bruised the fool. Like, I'll make it better. Like, I will. The full Scottish Mama Bear came out when, like, oh, when he's got his bruises up his ribs, I'm just like, why? Why? Also, after a discussion last time, I noticed Burge didn't fully say he was in love with Patience, giving that a thumbs up. Yes. I don't want to spoil anything for the future, Amanda. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want to. The story would be a lot shorter if Fitz had some awareness of what was happening around. Yeah, the book would be a lot shorter. A lot shorter. Oh my god. Where it's just so tightly wound. Do you know what though? It occurs to me that Birch, you know when things this has happened in both books, right? Where Fitz has like well and truly got under Birch's skin. He's done something that Birch is just like, I hate you right now. I hate you and I hate all your choices and I hate the fact that I've been stuck with you and I don't want you anymore. And he actually walks away and goes into a full huff. Like he goes into like a full, it lasts for months in one case. Huff, it makes Fitz feel so unloved and so abandoned and stuff. However, if you look at that from Birch's point of view, I think he goes off like that because I think he's genuinely worried about what he'll say if he doesn't. Like, and I think he's never been taught to says feelings out loud, like we said last time, and therefore he's never taught Fitz to do that. And nobody else has taught anybody else to do that because everybody was clearly like parented by wolves in these books. In fact, if they were parented by wolves, they would be better adjusted. But nobody expresses their feelings just out loud in this, and it's so annoyed. What do people think about Birch and Molly hanging out when Birch needed tending? I feel like he needs softness from somebody, and I feel like he struggles to accept it. I feel like he struggles to accept any kind of like gentleness from anybody. So, like, I think this was good for me. He used to get ladies been in the stable for too long. Yes. Lacey's badass and deserves all the good things. I agree. I always love the sexually frustrated noble character. Jon Snow, Kevin McKenna. Oh my god, Lysias Farinas in Rome. Don't. Amanda, don't. I could give you a list of other characters that fit this. Like, it's so bad. Yes, I want more from the cook and all the gossip. I want those behind the scenes bits. I would love this as well. Yes, I feel like that's very it. And with very in Fitz's head hearing all the shit talk. Oh my god. Yes, and don't forget about Hod. Oh, don't forget about Hod. Very avoiding Ketrican in the beginning. I was like, "Are you okay, my guy?" So that's like, are you sure you're all right? Like, is this a good choice for you? There could actually so many other ships, but Fitz is just so oblivious. We'd have no idea. Yes, very this. Birch definitely doesn't trust himself to have positive feelings. Yes. Ketchkin, the illustrated edition. I'll get my illustrated editions before we finish so that you can see them. Because they're in the hall now. I was like, they're just behind me, but I've just finished renovating this place. Literally, that's a video for soon. And they're in they're in the hallway now, but I will go and get them. Yeah, don't address your feelings, keep them inside you and let them eat you alive. Yes, so much. Do you know what? I was reading this book at the same time as we were finishing up Heartbreak High, the second season, and there's a bit where the young male characters are given pieces of paper and they write down how they feel and they literally throw them in the ground and bury them so that they're gone. And I was like, oh my god, that's so bad. That's so bad. So bad. I think Birch has a lot of the things Fitz does. Yep, as the whip bit suppresses it, and I think he had to let his love go. There is a big mirror between them. There really is. Yes, there was. There was indeed. Yes, I love this Fitz just being like, we do not hear it, we do not see it, I do not know what you are talking about. Don't tell me that. I think anybody who didn't marry Ketrican would be dumb. Like, Ketrican is a badass in this book. Like, she really genuinely is. I also I really enjoyed the part of Ketrican where we see her being able to relate to people on a lot of different levels, because I think that is something that Verity and everybody else in power in these books struggles with, like, so much. Right. I am gonna give you a question, then I'm gonna go get a tissue, and then I'm gonna come straight back. My question is, though, and I definitely want us to talk about this before we finish. Mind you, not that I've not got like 4 pages of questions I could ask you guys, but specifically, how do we feel about the addition of a chronic illness for Fitz? Because obviously, the effects of Regal's poison this time around has had like a big impact on him, like a huge impact on him, and it's potentially like life altering, it's potentially life changing. We now understand why at the start of the first book Fitz is struggling with writing, and he's struggling um staying awake, and like he's mentioned like the ill effects of earlier things, and we now see these things sort of like building in Fitz. So what do we think about that? I'll be right back. Just give me 1 second. Okay, here I am. I love Ketchikan. I hope we don't get any less in future books. But we'd all, yeah, we would all hang out. Verity just wants to run away. Yeah, I think that. Oh my, I think Verity's got a lot of bitterness as well in this book, because I think that he looks at chivalry and he's like, I loved you so much, but I loved being your second so much more than I loved you. Like, I think that it's very, very clear that Verity hates the fact that all of this has been put on him. And I think I think it takes him to like the latter half of this book before he's finally like, okay, like this is what my life is. This is what I'm stuck with now. This is where I am. I don't think he accepts that until later on, and I think that's the problem with him and Ketrigan is like he's at that point where he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Also, Verity and Fitz's relationship is very interesting in light of that, because I do feel like there's a part of Verity's that's like, you could potentially take over for me and I could just abdicate and leave. Like, I definitely think that there's a bit in the back of his brain that's thinking that. Wouldn't even dare look at Verity with an absolute badass face like Ketchkin in the vicinity. Yes, yes, literally, like, step on me and I will thank you. I will say, yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Hey, besties, it's your girl coming to you from the Keep Kitchen. Oh my god. Oh, well. That's really good. I love that, Amanda. He's so young, he's given up so much already. It's another sacrifice he didn't really choose. Yeah. But it was a good idea that was not brought up and used well enough in the later part of the book. Yeah, that is interesting, because I do definitely think that there are quite a few things in the later half of this book where I'm like, so in the earlier half of the book, he's very much presented as having like, this is a chronic illness now. This is something that if you don't look after yourself and if you push yourself too far, etc., then it's really going to come back and bite you in the ass. And then I feel like then there was the second part of the book where it was kind of like, but that's inconvenient right now, so we're not going to bring that up again. I would have liked to see more of it so we could see the effects it has on Fitz. I agree with you, Chloe. I feel like there was a portion of that was missed that I feel like we need. Been blown away by how Robin Hobb's written chronic illness. Yeah, definitely. And I feel as well like the thing that I felt as again as somebody with a chronic illness, the thing that I felt was there's a big piece in here that Fitz constantly thinks about how bitter he is, at the loss of what could have been, at how he could have been, at how his body could have been, at the things that he used to be able to do and he can't do anymore, and therefore that like impacts like potentially any choices that he makes in the future. You know, it's just like this thing has just been thrust upon him, and it's like, oh well, this is no wait, but this might be permanent. This might be just how I live my life. And there's like a huge grieving process that he goes through, which is why he's so angry. Like he's so angry about it, and I really love that. I don't get the tendency in fantasy to maim the main character. I guess it shows how much danger they're in. It's like so many series. I feel like because fantasy is generally set in this sort of like medieval environment, you know, like there's the need in there to humble them, because a lot of the time I think especially in like chosen one fantasies or that, there's so much power in the one character, so there has to be like a tipped balance. That's how I try and think about it. Like it's a way to show that they're not completely invulnerable. Danny, I can fix it. Oh my god, so that like Fitz is on this fade insignificant, but I didn't see it having consequences later in the book, like in the beginning. Yes, I agree. Didn't feel like it was mentioned enough. Think it could have affected him more. Yeah, because we definitely see with Chade, like in the first book, with the Karis seed that Chade needs to like continue on and continue to be a person. We definitely see in the first book lots more effects for Chade about pushing himself and like using his body like that. We see for him many more consequences than we see for Fitz. And although I think Birch mentions early on where he's like, well, maybe this is a thing that you're stuck with for the rest of your life, but also potentially like you might get better because you're young and your body's still growing and stuff. I think that like that was a way to handle it, and that was like a legitimate thing to say. But also, I feel like it's a bit like there's a lot of chronic illness in the books, but Fitz is affected young, yeah. I like the fact that at certain points Fitz kind of forgets about it and is thrown back in his face. Oh yes, so that, and especially again, there are days where I feel great and I'm like, woo, this is perfect, this is wonderful, and then I'm humbled, because then I'm like, oh yeah, but it's not though, it's really not though, and I definitely, yeah, I felt that in this book. Yeah, so that's interesting that it was portrayed for you, Amanda, more as something that he could get over, but it's not really something that's chronic. Will maybe become more prominent in later books. Have him needs longer to recover from all the axe marker on the O-ring on the skin. Yeah, because I mean, there's this big chunk in the middle of this book where Fitz kind of just goes rogue and just turns into like a seafaring, like gun for hire, and he spends like a lot of time like really like abusing his body. But I guess you could also think about it on the flip side is like he's building up his body, maybe he's giving, maybe and improving his physical fitness, he's given his body more, I don't know, more, what's the word I'm looking for, stamina, that's the word I'm looking for. She's live streaming Birch saddling up horses, getting all sweaty, playing with the dogs. Yes. There would also be like, guess who I saw wearing no shoes, absolutely shoeless, going from their room to somebody else's room. Like, there would be tons of that. Oh my god, I love that so much. It also hangs over Fitz, a constant reminder of his position at the keep and the risk he lives in every day. Yes, definitely. Think about it, and then Fitz will like wrestle a troll and forget about it. Chronic conditions can take time to become an unmanageable part of your life. This is very, very true. I have a feeling at the beginning of the book set up for how detrimental his illness is will come to roost later on. Yes. I did like that the Fitz realised how much worse it could be when he was in Shrewd's mind and he felt the pain of an older man. Why? Why does this series hurt me so much? Oh my god. Thirsty 30s. XOXO kitchen. Bro. This is never going away, is it? Oh, okay. So another thought that I had off the back of like the chronic illness stuff, I've literally written it down, is I feel like the chronic illness kind of represents something else in this book as well, and that's the habit that Fitz has of minimizing himself in order to serve other people, which is a thing that he has learned. He has learned it from Birch, he's learned it from Verity. He's even learned it from like Shrewd and the Fool, who Fool is like definitely holding on to that, like, this is my job, like I have to do this is my job. And I feel like this theme of like making himself smaller and smaller and smaller for the needs of those around him is definitely coming back to bite him in the bum. And with the chronic illness side of it, it's like we saw what happened to Verity when he skilled too much and didn't trust people. We saw what happened to Birch physically and mentally when he isolated himself and didn't trust people. We see what happens when Shade pushes and pushes and pushes his body, and there's nobody there to help him because nobody knows that he exists. And it comes back and bites him. Do you know what I mean? And so, like, there's this theme of like constant isolation, and then it's being reinforced every time. But found family is the cure for this. But family is the cure for this. But family is the cure for this. And it's just like, is anybody going to pay attention? is anybody going to pay attention to the fact that we're literally being told that family is the solution, that found family and the family that you create and the people that you hold on to is the solution? Like, is anybody going to pay attention to that? Just catch up with you, and then I'm going to go get my illustrated edition before we wrap this up. Yes, need to do this now. Be the change you want to see, especially when you remind us of that Daddy Birch picture in the book. Oh, that picture of Birch is just it's perfect. There was a scene where Verity fully realized what he was asking of Fitz and that it was unfair, but he had no choice. It hurts me so much. Also, the way he's also surprised when somebody cares. Oh, that ends me. That scene ends me, Bex. If I was an all storyteller, I'd be writing all the fanfic we talked about in the Wednesdays. Oh, Christmas Christmas. Oh my god. Well, whatever they have in place of Christmas. Like, whatever they have. Emily had to go out and kill people and didn't have to kill people they potentially. Right, let me go get my illustrated edition. Because I feel like this just needs a moment. I feel like this book needs a moment. So this is the front of it. Right, let me have a look. What's the first one in here? Because the first one in here is fairly early on. Hold on. Just trying not to miss any of them because I missed a couple of them last time. Okay, so we've got some of Verity skilling and being successful, which Verity on his knees, but still triumphant is, it hurtsies me, preciouses. It hurtsies me, so it does. I just flipped past another one. Oh, okay, so the next one's gonna kill everybody. Night Eyes. Baby Night Eyes. Oh, look at his little face. I love how sullen they managed to make him look. Like, I love how much they managed to make him be like, because actually, one of my favourite scenes in this, and that's a good question, guys, while I show these. What is your favourite scene? Because my favourite scene in this entire book is the one where he's wrestling. He knows that he can't carry the cage and Night Eyes all the way up because his body just won't let him do it, even though he's determined that he's going to try. And so he has to take him out of his cage, and Night Eyes just fully like rips the shit out of him. And then he has to sort of make him submit and be like, no, I'm going to do this for your own good. And it felt so Fitz and Burrich coded. It felt so very much like that's exactly what Burrich did to Fitz. Okay, what have we got here? Oh, we've got Fitz against some forged ones. The bit where he drops the cloak. And it's interesting because he does definitely look like, I think in that illustration he looks more like 18 or 19 rather than 16. But yeah, that's definitely the consensus of the age that he is in this book from the timeline. It would be nice if Robin Hobb's team would drop an actual like straight up timeline, just like an official one. But I guess if she did that, she could potentially run into the issue of like maybe being like stuck with something that isn't perfect. Okay, I feel like this is a slightly wasted illustration in this one that I didn't really agree with the inclusion of. I think it's just a pretty image just to be a pretty image, but it's like one of the red ships. Like, I just feel like out of all of them, I'm just kind of like I don't really know. Yes, then I think one of the next ones somebody asked, Ocean asked if there's images of the full. There is, and it's a freaking good one. It's one of my favorite pieces of art from the whole series. So we've got Molly and Fitz. That one makes him look a lot younger, I think. I think that one makes him look more the age that he actually is. Yes, and the white ship. And the white ship. Um I do think that was a wasted illustration though, because I would rather have people than things. Like, yeah, okay, the white ship, very cool and stuff, but can I have more of Fitz and anybody? You could have put another Daddy Burrich image in there. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was no need for that. Right, okay, here is one of my absolute favorite illustrations. Hello. Fitz and a very beaten up fool. Fitz and a fool who has taken an absolute battering. Oh, but look at him touching him. Look at the touching. Ah. Don't know what the next one is. I can't remember. Because I don't read out of these editions. These editions are specifically for sitting on my shelf and looking beautiful. Oh, there we go. That's the next one. The next one. So tell me that this image is not just Sansa Stark. So this is Ketchikan. But tell me that image is not just a blonde Sansa Stark with all of the clothes that Sansa wore before she went south. Like, it's not how I see Ketchikan. She's too pretty for how I see Ketchikan, and I think like I actually quite like that about Ketchikan, that she's constantly. I mean, they describe her as strong and stuff like that because they don't want to describe her as pretty, because she's not beautiful in their idea of what beauty should be and their beauty standards of their time, and their situation. She's not beautiful, but I quite like that about her. Like, I quite like the fact that she's not traditionally beautiful. And I feel like it's a bit of a waste. Like, I feel like, is that the last one, or is there one more after that? Oh no, there is. Oh, okay, the last one's gonna absolutely destroy you. So this is the second last one. A little bit of Rego for your nerves. Like, just a little bit of that for your nerves. Or Justin, maybe? Oh no, it isn't. It's Fitz. It's Fitz doing like the king's knife I told him, and I showed it round, taking blood and vengeance for the king's death. That's all. He doesn't look like he does in any in any of the other pictures, but apparently that's what it is. Okay, so the last one, another one of my. Oh no, second last one. Wait. Oh no, there we go. There's Regal. Of course. Of course. I think that's actually a beautiful image. Like, I think that very perfectly mirrors how I see Regal. Right, okay. Last one, my favorite one, and I think probably going to be most of you guys' favorite ones. It's accompanied by the words, "Stay with me, Fitz. Stay with me." I didn't at all see what you. Yeah, he does look older in a lot of these. Oh my god, that destroyed me. That destroyed me. I think Shred had a blind eye when it came to Regal and just refused to believe just how far he would go. Yeah, because I think deep down excuse me, he's still a father with a son. He's still a father with a son. Um, Anything with Night Eyes, them wrestling, yeah. Yeah. I like Fitzpillions trying to get Shade and Shred together and then out of the oh, the relationship between Shred and Shade hurts me, man. It hurts me so, so bad. Yes. Oh, it hurts so bad. I really want to see Patience's room. Yes, I want that too. I know, poor Phil, he's a baby. You can feel the love through the page. Yeah, it's not the love, something like it. Was that the Fits in the Full image? Like seriously. Yeah, I feel like there is like a wide variety. Again, I would caution googling any kind of artwork, but I feel like there's a wide variety of interpretations of the Fool, but I really like the ones in these books because they feel very non-binary in all of them, and a lot softer than some of them. Quite a lot of them have Fool is like quite angular and quite sharp and a little bit shrewd as well, and I'm like, that's not how I feel. It is a beautiful picture. She looks younger in that than I imagined. Yeah, but I think that's probably accurate, isn't it? Imagine her like Gwendolyn Christie. Yes. Oh, I would love that. More of a Brienne of Tarth. Yes, very much that. I could talk about this book for 2 more hours. Yes. Oh, I know it's horrible. It's horrible, right? It is so beautiful. That scene did, in fact, hurt so much. There was so much crying. I think that I cry at quite a few things in this series. I'm not usually like an actual physical crier at books. Like I get the feelings, but I don't often actually cry. But that scene makes me sob every single time. And the narrator in the audiobooks is so amazing at doing the like stay with me fits. It's just so it hurts me so very much, so very much. Um I did spoil myself for something when desperate to see character. No, Beth! It's something I would have guessed. Oh well, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Yeah, I know. So I feel a little bit bad about this, guys. We do have the Fits Along itself started as a suggestion on Patreon, so it was something that quite a few people wanted to read the books. Started reading the trilogy, and then I was like, oh, Becca and I were discussing like a Fits Along, and it just kind of happened. So there is a section on our Patreon Discord server for discussing like the Fits Along in the books and stuff, and most people are very much still at the stage that we're at right now. Some people are a little bit ahead, and while I would absolutely love to have like a server that's open for everybody, I just don't have the time to be on my Patreon server and also on another one, and also like keeping up with the Around the Disc in 800 Days one. So I mean, we're very active over on Patreon, guys. It's a lovely, lovely space. So if you ever have the free time or the inclination to come over and check it out, we would absolutely love that. The more the merrier. Everybody there is just so sweet. I love those guys a lot. There's a lot of other things over on Patreon as well. There's a new 6-month readathon coming. There's a Doctor Who watch along that we're only on season 1 of. So there's a lot of stuff on Patreon, including the Discord. Oh, thanks, guys. I'm still surprised I didn't cry in this first trilogy. I wonder though, Beth, whether Assassin's Quest will get you on a reread, because there are certain parts in Assassin's Quest that I'm so not looking forward to because they're so incredibly painful. So I do have one really stupid question to ask you guys before we wrap up. Just one like really genuinely stupid question. And that is, if you could work in any place in Buckkeep, if you could do anything, and that includes being a fool, being one of the royal family, being in Ketchikan's court, being any of like the working people in Buckkeep, what would you want to do? Who would you be? That's what I want to know. That's my big dumb question. Before we finish, like, if you could do anything in the series, what would you do? Aw, thanks, guys. Yeah, you get my patrons. What more do you need? Everybody is just so lovely, like, genuinely. It's haunting. It's hauntingly lovely. I love you guys. Yes, I will, Marina. I am in my so it will be it's starting in June. Because we have one more, it's replacing our book club effectively, and our book club has one more pick to read for May. So it will probably be at some point during May, maybe my June TBR that I mention it, but it is going to be just as a teaser. It's a map of our little haunted village of Lochfern, and every stop on the map, you get to use a book from your own TBR, and then we are going to be discussing each stop, and you're going to get to like collect points and stuff as you go around. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I don't need to tell you it's going to be in the kitchen. Do you know what, though? I couldn't work in the kitchen because the amount that they need to wash their hands, like in between doing stuff, the amount of times that their hands are going to be like in pastries or like kneading bread, you got to have some upper arm strength for that, man. I do not have the wrist strength to work in the kitchen, like carrying those like pots of boiling water and stews and stuff. I would love to work in the kitchen, but I'm 100. But realistically, if I was gonna work anywhere, I would absolutely be a chambermaid. I mean, that's my lot in life. If I worked in any, like, I'm pretty sure my Scottish ancestors were all chambermaids. Like that would be who I was. I would be emptying chamber pots, refreshing mattresses, putting new stewing reeds about the place, replacing candles, cleaning fireplaces. That is who I am as a person. Who I would like to be, who I would love to be if I had the like actual skill. I want to work in the stables, man. I want to work in the stables. I want to work with the hawks. I want to work with the dogs. I don't want people. Yep, in the kitchen, work in the stable. Oh, Molly's shop. Oh, working in the chandlery. I would burn myself. I would burn myself. Do you notice how I'm talking myself out of all of these things? Because realistically, in a fantasy world, I wouldn't be able to do anything anyway because I'm blind without these. Like utterly, like I drop me in any fantasy world, any portal fantasy, anywhere. The minute I lose my glasses, it's over for me. I'd be hands. Yes, the stables, in the kitchen. I would be with Birch and Yep. We would be with Burrich in the stables, Sarah, and we would make him far less grumpy. Working in the stable or with the fool. Oh, could you imagine like coming up with like puppet shows with the fool to amuse people? Like, oh, I'd love to have a shop like Molly. I'd stay away from the palace. I think that's a very smart. Maybe occasionally try to talk to Shay. Do you know what, though? Some people do know that Shade exists. Do you know what I mean? They might not know him as Chade. They might know him as one of his aliases. But people do know that he exists. And to some degree, he's not like completely isolated. You also know that Chade gets some occasionally. Like, he's not just staying up in that tower on this is like that's Fitz's impression of him as being like locked behind that tower door. But I don't think that's true. Yeah, the stable. Oh, with Patience, could you imagine all like the really Stephanie, do you not think that Patience just wakes up sometimes in the morning and she's like, right, today we're going to find this herb. It only grows in this one place in the kingdom. Saddle up, bitches. Like, that's 100% a day with Patience. Molly's shop would be lovely. hanging out with patients and occasionally visiting Shane. Yeah, just like taking him little like trays of food, Chantal, and just being like, how are you, man? Are you okay? Like, you should sweep in here sometimes. Let's like to just make sure Verty's looking after himself, forcing food and water on him. Yes, Beth, giving him those sponge baths, which is what I know you actually want to be doing. Like, I can fix him, I can make him better. I want to look after all the dogs like Fitz did, yes, and hear all the gossip in the kitchen. I would also quite like to be in the guard room. I feel like y'all are sleeping on this. Working like in the guard room as one of the guards. Like I definitely feel like y'all are sleeping on this because those men gonna be, and they're not all men as well. I absolutely love that in this series is that we get like clearly female guards, like women in places of like defense and power. Like that room is the place to be. That room is the place to be. They know everything. Just as much as they know in the kitchens because they are the actual traveling gossips. Like every other place, like the kitchen, the washerwomen, all of these kinds of places, they're stationary. The guards go freaking everywhere, right? If you check it out, Marina, we would love to have you. But it is going to be so much fun. I promise. Guess I'm the closest to a chambermaid in real life. Personal kitchen assistant to the prince. I'm a great PA. I love this. Best fully like writing like a full CV. Like this is what I want to do with my life. Like I can give you references. I changed my mind. I want to be the scribe. Oh, the scribe. And the scribe gets to wander around as well and collect everything that they need for their wee cats. I just want to live my cottagecore dreams. That's fair. Yeah, I have to do that in real life so you can pass it. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sort out his, yeah. Pick up his maps for him when they've fallen on the floor. They have a library, Chloe. Oh, they have a library and it's going to be tablets, parchment, scrolls. Oh, can you imagine how good that would smell? Oh, I would want to work in the stables too. Yep, I need to be able to survive without glasses and fewer allergies. That would also be me. I would be dead. Liz, I would be dead. I would be dead. I wouldn't work with Birch. I'd never get anything. The honesty of that statement. When I hang out in the kitchen and help in the garden in the snow. Gardening. Oh, definitely gets his travel. I have a suspicion it's far more often than on page. Absolutely. He's gone for all these like big chunks of time and he doesn't tell Fitz where he's going. And he's obviously doing things for Shrewd as well and like going to places and gathering intelligence and stuff like that Shrewd knows that like Fitz knows nothing about because as much as he's sworn to secrecy, so is Jade, so they don't share everything. Absolutely that guy gets around the place. It's exactly why I would be with her. She's full of positive action. Yes, guards fighting. Well, there's fighting and death, but is there really? Because the army is fighting in death, Eleanor. Like the army and the guys that they raise for the army won't be the people that make up the house guard. The people that make up the house guard and actually just guard the keep, they stay in the keep. Like their point is to make sure nobody comes in. All the fighting and the death that happens somewhere else. The keep guard is just there to keep people out of the keep. They're gossiping with the people in the town. They're going to the kitchen. They're going to all areas. They change. Remember, they've got like nightly watches. They work in shifts. They see everything at every minute of the day. Absolutely, I want to hang out in the guard room. I'd be in Ketchigan's guard. If I had any inclination towards, but yeah, if I had depth perception, man, you would never hold me back. If I could see without glasses and I had depth perception and I could run fast, that's what I would do. That's what I would do. Guardsmen, I would have to fight and protect. Would you though? I wonder how many of the guards in Buckkeep have really actually had to ever draw their sword. How often do you think people come to Buckkeep to like the actual like keep itself and like knock on the door and be like, I'm bringing trouble? Like how often do you think they actually have to dispatch somebody who's unruly? Because I don't think it's that often. See me in right now. I also don't do well with being told what to do. So working in the keep is out. Yeah, that's fair. I think my courtesy would suck because obviously they need to like courtesy and bow when people come past. Like you would have to be able to quickly drop what you're doing and do like a courtesy. I would fall over. It would be worse. I would be banished. I would not be allowed to be in public. Royalty would be worst bosses. I think that's a classic child thing of not thinking grown-ups around him have lives that don't involve him. Yeah, and like it's very that thing where you see your teacher in the wild and you're like, "What? You live at the school. What are you doing out here?" That's very much him and Chade, right? Like really, any library adjacent job will do for me. Yeah, like being the person who actually like writes down the ballads and stuff like that so that they don't disappear. Absolutely. I would flourish there. I love that. The kitchen's tempting, but it's hard work in 2024, so I'm going to say no to a medieval kitchen. I don't have the brain power to be a guard because you have to remember and report on everything you see. That is also very, very true. That is very true. Okay, guys. Well, I think we're going to leave it there. We've just hit the 2-hour mark, which I think is definitely our sweet spot. I think that's what we ended up the first live show being as well. Thank you so much for joining me for this live show. Once again, I have had an absolute blast. I've had so much fun. The next one, so obviously next up, our next read is Assassin's Quest. We will be reading that through May and June, and then the live show will be at the end of June. I want to say the end of June's are like we've got a full week at the end of June. And I do want these live shows, I do want you to have the full 2 months to be able to read the books. The reason that the live show this month is the date that it is because we only have 2 days left of the month. So the live show for Assassin's Quest is likely to be at the very start of July, because I want you to actually have the 8 weeks to read the book, because otherwise it's like you're getting shortchanged by a week in order to accommodate the live show. So that is likely to be when it is, but like keep your eyes peeled. As I said before, if you would like to join Patreon, the link is everywhere on my socials. It's on my channel here. There are some absolutely lovely people over there, and there is a whole channel just dedicated to talking about these books and theories as people read them. That is all spoiler tagged, so there won't be any spoilers in there. I am going to try and keep it on a Monday, because I think that is working for the most amount of people when I did a poll. So it's probably going to be, like I say, it's probably going to be the first week of July, but it will always, I think, be on a Monday if I can manage to keep it that way. Yeah, so Patreon, we have a lot of things going on over there. We would love to see you there. Thank you again so much for your support. Please remember, if you are going to post about the Fits Along anywhere on social media, if you hashtag Fits Along and also tag me in it, I will repost it so that I can watch all of your reactions while you're reading through Assassin's Quest. You guys are the best. I've had an absolute blast. I hope you have a lovely evening or a lovely afternoon wherever you are in the world, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.